Alright guys, Jack here, JBF Music and Guitar Lessons, and what I've got for you today is an analysis to Band-Maid's chemical reaction. If you just want the straight reaction, you can get that with the eye up there, but I'm going to go through the song and talk about things that jump out at me here. This one was a request by Stephen Williams, so before I completely forget, I just want to give you a huge thank you and a shout out to you. And on that note, a huge thank you to Rabbi Rams, Matt Hortzman, Glenn Kelly and Rebecca Hay for their continued support on Patreon as well. Thanks so much guys. Do you yourself want to let me keep doing what I'm doing, or got something you think I should check out, hit up patreon.com/JBF Music. Too much from me, as per usual with the intro. So, this had a kind of interesting start here with a high pass filter, which I have explained before in greater detail, so not to bore people that have seen those, I'll just link to it with the eye up there. But basically this weird kind of scratchy far away sound. We've taken all the bass out and just left the treble in. So I talked about 4 on the floor. What that means is the kick drum going on every beat. So this song is in 4/4. You can count along. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So every time I'm saying 1, I'm saying 2, saying 3, and saying 4. You can hear a big thump, thump, thump. That's the kick drum, and it's going doof, 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 doof. You call it 4 on the floor because the kick drum's the big one on the floor. So the drummer's basically just kicking the kick drum on all of those beats. You hear it a lot in disco. I think that's probably where the phrase came from, at least what I know it from, is if you're playing kind of disco or kind of more dancey R&B stuff, you know, maybe like a kind of Steve Winwood or maybe kind of Blues Brothers type of thing. Sometimes this might be doubled up with a tom, so like the floor tom is the big kind of drum that's usually down here. You sometimes have a bigger one there as well, just to make it sound a bit bigger. There are other things they could do as well, so they could just EQ the kick drum in a different way to give it a bit more mid-range rather than just that kind of low-end thud. The size of the kick drum you use also affects the tone, as does how padded it is. So typically you might see like a duvet or a carpet shoved inside a kick drum, and sometimes this is to weigh it down and stop it from moving, but mainly it's to muffle the sound a bit, so you get a less John Bonham and more of a kind of Dave Grohl if you put stuff in the kick drum to dampen the sound. Get less sustain. That's probably a better way of describing it. It just sounds really huge here, and I know what some bands, what are they called? It's got Nolly in it. It's like 3 guitarists. It's not Polyphia. They got a song called Icarus something. Icarus Lives. Oh, what are they called? Oh my gosh, this is disgraceful. It's all like kajoom, bajoom, bajoom. Bajoom bajoom stuff. It's not Polyphia. I think it begins with a P though. Periphery. Yeah, they're really quite into the whole recording and engineering side of things, and I think what Nolly used to do, I don't know if he still plays with them, but when he records stuff, he'd tune the kit to the overall key of the song, which sounds stupid, but even if you hit something like, even if I kind of tap this guitar, that does have a pitch. It's very hard to discern because it's such a kind of staccato noise. It's so kind of quick. It's done, so it's difficult to I think it's maybe an F. See, it's difficult to tell. You could call it something else and I wouldn't know the difference. But you can take that concept and apply it to drums, and particularly if they have a bit of sustain, it's a bit more kind of noticeable. The reason I mention this is because they might have tuned the kick to C in this, because that's what the song's in, because it just sounds really huge. I don't know if they have. I'm just completely spitballing here. I could be wrong. They might have just not bothered to do that at all. Or what they might have gone is gone to the EQ and bumped up where C is. I'll explain what I mean by that and some reasons why you might not want to do it with this. So you've got this doo-doo. As a lot of their heavier songs are, this is drop tune, so it's in drop C. Again, the kind of key of the song. You've got a power chord built on the 3rd fret of what used to be the A string, so probably a G. Up, to there, and open. Just double check that. Yeah, so when you hear the guitar isolated, you might get why I was talking in the reaction about it having this kind of like industrial 9 Inch Nails kind of sound. Of course, they're adding in lots of kind of fills and stuff like that as well, so it's not quite as kind of straightforward as the, you know, Trent Reznor sometimes likes an idea like Hand That Feeds is kind of just like a riff all the way through, almost like You Really Got Me or something. He quite likes that. It's an aesthetic choice. These guys obviously like to play about with it. And this bit here, I was talking about Mixolydian. So, forgot to do the adjustment for for being in C there. So say that's our tonal center, C. And Mixolydian is this kind of major mode. You might think of like kind of slightly psychedelic stuff, or the Beatles, or Queen kind of used it quite a lot. I think She Sells Sanctuary by the Cult is probably in it, if you want a kind of reference point. But if you hear this kind of sound, quite Mixolydian. Quite a few grunge bands kind of used it as well, but they'd sometimes use a flat 6 in the Mixolydian to make it a bit more edgy. But when I was talking about that, it's basically a collection of notes that when put one after the other and kind of used together, create this kind of feel. Sweet Child of Mine, the verse of that's in Mixolydian as well. So I got a kind of still a rock feel, but some sort of uplifting kind of soft rock, I'd say. Although they're making it sound pretty heavy here with all the downtuning and kind of octaves and stuff like that going on as well, the slides. And that you've got kind of like you know, the bare bones of their again, these kind of chugs on the lower strings. Probably need to put a noise gate on, so I'm going to do that. I have talked about noise gates before, and I will link to that with the eye up there. I'm just going to do it this time. So now I've put that on the chugs, a bit tighter with less string noise, okay? Which is the sort of thing you need to do when you're recording this, because you don't want it to be all kind of ringing out and sloppy. You really want these kind of chugs. Left-hand muting as well, so using this hand to mute out the chord with the right hand. So play the strings, you can use your palm to stop them from ringing, and in conjunction you can use the left hand. Something Dimebag used to do a lot, which I have covered before. I'll link to that with the eye up there. So when I think about the Mixolydian mode in rock, I do tend to think about, I don't want to say, maybe kind of like, not exactly southern rock, but there's a certain aesthetic that I think, there's some songs in Skid Row's Slave to the Grind that kind of lean into it. And one of the things that I tend to associate Mixolydian in kind of heavier rock with is the use of the cowbell. So when they put in here, where is it? There. The cowbell, in case you're not too sure what that means, see how there's that kind of high sound kind of doing a kind of, that's the cowbell. It's got a very kind of mid-heavy frequency, so you don't need it to be that loud in the mix, despite what the SNL sketch might have you believe, because we just kind of hear them. They're in that kind of sweet spot, like human speech, where it's generally easy for us to pick out. And it's quite common in this kind of type of rock that uses this mode. You might notice here as well, the kick drum is still underneath it. So there's a kind of weight to it. It might be a tom, but I think it's just the kick being played softly. And that keeps this kind of driving thing going forward. It feels like there's still momentum in the song without it dipping quite as much as it would if it was just the cowbell by itself. Yeah, and here we have a little dive bomb. Just here. Meow. So what that sounds like, it's a harmonic. We're going to take a guess. No. Where are we? Okay, so it's one of these nasty 3rd fret ones. You get 3 harmonics on the 3rd fret. You can play a butchered version of Mary Had a Little Lamb. So if you want to practice getting them, that's a good way to do it. They're all very close together. Quite difficult to get because of that. Basically, it sounds like it's this harmonic and then a bar dip after it. That's what a dive bomb really is. You hit a note and depress the whammy bar. This isn't a particularly good one, so this will probably knock my guitar completely out of tune. So rather than just hitting a string and dipping the whammy bar down, you hit a harmonic and dip the bar down. It sounded like she did a slight flutter, so where would it be? Something a little bit like that. Not too badly out of tune, so that's good. So that's what that was. A whammy bar, kind of natural harmonic, and then a dive. I don't want to derail this about natural harmonics, so if I've got cards left, I will link it up there. If not, it will be down in the video's description. So another one there. Again, these are very kind of 80s kind of Skid Row-y things. And I think the second one might have been that other one on the 3rd fret there. Yeah, the tricky ones to get, but they sound the best. It's that real kind of dime bag squeal, if you can get the... I can't get it there. You know, Dimebag are on Van Halen and all, Steve Vai, all the guys that use the whammy bar loads. Jeff Beck a bit as well, but his tend to be, as diplomatic as I can be here, a bit more tasteful. Rather than being an effect, he tends to use them quite musically. And what they've got here in the chorus is, I think they're just harmonising the kind of tagline, the chemical reaction. And because they've just harmonised that one line, it makes it pop out. It's like, you listen to All the Small Things by Blink-182, there's certain lines that tend to pop out. A lot of time, I'm talking about the verse specifically, that's because there's a backing vocal just pops up for certain parts. It's just an artistic choice about which ones you want those to be. There's a really cool shift and vibe coming up here as well. So what they've done there is, while the song is based largely on this kind of C, a D5 and a C, here they've gone to, I'm trying to work out what chord that is because everything's in the wrong place. This part goes from an F to an A flat to a B flat. The other guitar is doing something pretty cool, which I think is something like... So while the rhythm is doing an F for 2 bars, an A flat and a B flat, lead's outlining this over that F. So what we're basically getting is an F sus4. This note here is the 4th. These other 2 notes are in the F chord, so they don't really change it. I play that together with the 4th on top. You hear that kind of floatiness, just slightly cleaner sound. And then what's happening is this note's getting added in, which is a G. So we do get a fairly kind of jazzy sound. As soon as I played that chord, it reminded me of a song. I cannot think which one it is. Hit me up in the comments, you guys will likely remember better than me. But those parts isolated and then together, let's hear them. The rhythm. It's the power chord built on here. I'm not flipping you the bird, I'm just holding it down with my first finger, and then a power chord built on here to here, palm muted. straight downward pick strokes is what I do. Lead part, you've got this open string here, we used to be the D, let's call it the 4th string, open 3rd string, and you might want to apply a light bit of palm muting or just use a slightly cleaner tone than I've got here. 1st fret on the 2nd string, so back to that open 4th string, 3rd fret on the 4th string, then up to the 1st fret on the 2nd string, open 3rd string, back to that 3rd fret on the 4th string. Then doubling up the power chords from the rhythm. So I've jumped a wee bit ahead in the song. What we've got going on here is kind of, if you listen to the lead part, that kind of wow, 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 it's got a wah pedal on, so it's kind of giving it, you know, it's typical for funk. But here it kind of leans into more of that kind of dancey aesthetic, and she's moving it in time with the music to like pushing the wah down. You got the scratchier sound wah, 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 when it's being pushed down, doing that in time, so it feels more like a Nine Inch Nails kind of dancey thing than a kind of 70s funk. And shortly after this we're approaching like the Weird Band-Maid Bit. So here, this is similar to it's either Clang or Choose Me, where they've got kind of like a one guitar is doing a chunky riff, and I think there's double stops in the lead. But the interesting part was here. I'll link to a better analysis up there. You can hear this really kind of soft tone. Is it there? That sounds like it's feedback or potentially harmonics, and it's been harmonized as well. It's just a really cool aesthetic. Yeah, up there. And then it kind of dips out. So either rolling the volume down using a kill switch, it's basically like an on-off switch for a guitar, or simply doing it in the studio, just dipping it. Then almost a kind of unison section here, which actually, having mentioned the wah not being anything like the 70s, you could imagine this being do-do-do-do-do-do-do. That was Countdown. You can imagine this as a TV game show you get here in the UK. I don't know why that popped into my head. There's maybe a market for that kind of funkified TV theme tunes and jingles, but this unison line sounds like something you could have got on like a funk record to me. Just this bit, and I'd guess that's where they've got the inspiration from, because that sounds to me like it could be played by brass. Just before the solo, we've got returned to this kind of Mixolydian line. So a quick breakdown of what I think's happening. It sounds like there's octaves. So that'd be the 12th fret on the 6th string and on the 4th string. Play those and just kind of mute out the string in the middle of the 5th string with your fingers. Then we've got a tone bend back to pitch on that 13th fret on the 2nd string. Then you're going to go 14 down to on the 3rd string here. 12, 11, 12, 14, 12, back down to 11. It's a bit slower. The first time going down to that 11 might be a slide. Listen to yourself and see what you think it is. So that's a really good example of this Mixolydian sound. Alright, so I was listening to the solo here. I was just going to breeze through it, but I've inadvertently worked out the first part of it, so I'll just play through that and break it down. This is a bit of a side note more than anything else, but someone had left a comment, I completely forget who, so I'll probably edit in over the top here, had mentioned about tapping and how a lot of guitarists tend to tap with the first finger and kind of cradle a pick, which I do, and they'd said that they tend to tap with their middle finger. And I'd said it's good to be able to do both. I prefer this, but here, because we're going so quickly to the bend, I can either flick through the string give myself time to get to the plectrum. Risk the plectrum, or I can just keep the pick in between these fingers and tap with this one. And the pick's there. So that's how it starts off. We're tapping 17 down to 13, down to 10, that twice. And then the same shape just on this lower string. Then you're just bending that 13th fret up a tone. You bend that twice. One more time. Then we're coming down the scale, so you have that third bend, I suppose. Then just... So to go over those frets, 13, 10, onto the next string, 13, 12, 10, down a string again, 12, 10, 12, back up to the previous string, 10, then got 10, 11, 12, and then up to what was the G string, I think it's there in F, the 10th fret. Same idea here, so we've got 10, 11, 12, 10 on the next string, a little chromatic thing down, 13, 12, 11, 10. So play the whole thing a wee bit slower. You could, I don't know if you noticed there, I was trying to get ready to tap by cradling the pick because I just prefer it so much more. I don't know why. Anyway. Following on from that, we've got this. So it's that same kind of a kind of C thing. Here, I suppose I should mention, she's playing largely C minor licks rather than C Mixolydian ones. If you notice, it doesn't sound like Mixolydian. Well done. And that's because the riff that's being played over, we can get away with it. It should also be noted that if you hear Mixolydian sounds, because it's kind of associated with blues music to some extent and the R&B that I mentioned before, you can get away with playing minor pentatonic over it as well, but that is a music theory topic for another day. In some sort of run up the scale. So this triplet line, it reminds me of Tom Morello a bit, because he kind of does these sort of things, lots of hammer-ons and using 3 notes per strings, and it sounds like it's along the lines of... So I'll break that down. So I'm not sure on the position, but I'd go with something like this, where for that 15th fret we're just going to hammer on 17, 19, position shift to 14, hammer on to 15, 17, and you do it again, so you have... And we're over to here, we've got 14, 16, 17 so far. Well, quite a jump here up to 17, 18, 20. Again, just hit it once and hammer on. Same idea here. Start at 17, but then we go 19, 20, and then when you get to 20, you want to bend it. So you'd have something like... Just a tone bend at the end there. After the solo, we've got this kind of 4 on the floor thing again. And you can hear the cowbell over the top of that. Then what we have is you'll start to hear the hi-hat coming in on what you call the offbeat. So if you think about it almost as like a grid where your kick drum's going 1, 2, 3, 4. And in between these you've got the offbeats. 1, add 2, add 3, add 4, add. It's like in kind of ska music, you know how it's one... It's on that kind of offbeat. That's what the hi-hat's doing. So you get doomt, 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 doomt. So it's that that kind of typical dance music thing, yeah? And it helps give it that groove. If the hi-hat's on the same beat, on the downbeat, it doesn't have the same kind of danceability to it. What I'll do is put that up in the drums just now so you can hear the difference between the two. Hit up Patreon if you enjoy these and want me to continue to be able to do them. Check out these videos, hit subscribe to keep up to date with the channel. If you just want to leave a like and a comment instead, that is awesome. And as always, I hope you're having a great one. Cheers, guys.